Okay, folks, so we kind of raced through the last bit of the, through that last part of the last video, which I apologize for. I was running out of time on my recording here. So I just wanted to point out something. I sort of commented that I got what seemed like a weird message when I did a commit. You'll notice that it shows that, that this commit, that this last update to the page, if I'm on my GitHub, right, and I'm on my own GitHub here, and I had to put in my own GitHub username and password, but you'll notice that it says, well, Kathy Zhang did this. Well, of course, that's because I am on Kathy Zhang's computer. Now, I am going to hope that, I think this is actually a shared computer, so rather than giving it a name, I think I'm actually going to give it something generic. But something that you all will want to do is when you are configuring GitHub on your lab machine, or certainly on your personal machine, you're going to want to actually configure the GitHub user. And so it gave me this message that said, you know, here's how you can assign the identity, right? So instead of coming from Kathy Zhang, I can have it come from me. I'm probably going to set this to Tau Center. This is actually a Tau Center computer I happen to be on. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say the name is, so when I ran this command, it popped me into this weird, this is technically an editor. I can edit a file in here. In order to do that, however, I have to hit the letter I. You notice I got this insert method down here. This is something called Vim. This is hated by many people. And you won't ever have, you don't really have to use it after this. So again, this is just for reference purposes. So I'm just going to call this Tau Center, and I'm going to call it, I have to move with my cursor. I can't actually move with my mouse. Call it Tau Center at Columbia.edu. And now I have to hit escape, :X. Again, don't worry about memorizing this stuff now. You really won't have to use this afterwards. And now if I make another commit, it's going to appear to come from Tau Center. Again, for you all, you can set the user on your lab machine, and then at home you'll obviously want to set it if you decide to do work on this from home, so that your commits don't look funny. Of course, no one else should have your username and password for GitHub anyway, so you ought to be the only person who can actually add things. You'll notice I didn't have to sign into anything in order to clone this, and that's because this is currently a public repo, right? So that's one thing about it, is it's kind of out there for the world to see, and anybody can make changes to it. Of course, only people who are authorized, like yourselves, can actually commit things back up. But anyhow, I digress. What I wanted to just demonstrate with this is that I get this nice history of what's been done to my file. It's time-stamped, it has my commit message, and if I look at it, I should see, yep, here we go. This didn't show quite before. It's the whole file is here, but what it's doing is it's just showing me what changed. So you see now I have a red line saying, hey, look, this is the line that was modified. They call it a deletion. It's not really. They're highlighting, by the way, this is the thing that changed. So you can imagine, again, those of you who've dealt with track changes, this is nice because if I just look at the file directly, right, if I go back here, and I say, well, what's in my newsfeed file? It just shows me the file as it currently is, right? It's not really messy looking. But if I look at the history, right, I can actually see what changed at each point in time, right? So it's one of the reasons why GitHub has actually become really popular with a lot of folks in the humanities, right? It's used in programming, but it's also used in history and English and all of these other disciplines, because it's a really nice way to keep track of what's happening. And you can use it to collaborate, and you all will use it to collaborate when you get to your final projects. Anyhow, so very quick way to kind of save, track what I'm doing, download things to a new computer if I need to. Good all-around tool. So here is currently the visual on my, this is the current visual on my HTML page. I don't know why that highlight. That was just a weird highlight. So what are we going to do now? Well, what I want to do now is a couple of things. The first thing that I want to look at is I want to start talking about, we've talked in class already about how ideally our goal is we have HTML, which provides structure. We have CSS that provides layout and style, right? And we've dealt with both of those already. We've got our divs, we've got classes, we've got this style bit, right, that is changing the layout of our page. We've got all these things. And then we have content. And ultimately, what we really want is we want for style, structure, style, and content to all be independent of each other. What do I mean by that? Well, in just the same way that when we were in class, I originally started out by saying, well, I can have a style tag, and that style tag could say, color equals something hideous, right? So again, if I put a style tag right on that link there, I can get it to change color. But I don't, in principle, want to have style tags right on my HTML because that's mixing together style and structure. Well, I do have a thing right now where I actually have content and structure mixed together because I've got, my headlines and my links and, all of this, my image tags and all that stuff mixed right in with my HTML content. Now, you could argue that some of this is HTML itself, right? But things like this, the text, obviously you all with your summaries, right? That's content. That's not structure. So ultimately, we want to get to a place where our content is also not mixed in with our HTML. To do that, we're going to need a couple of things. First of all, basically what we're going to need is JavaScript, and we're going to need it for two reasons. One, because we are going to both store our data in JavaScript, and then we're going to use JavaScript to get that content into the right place on the page. So first of all, we need to start by adding some JavaScript. And I'm going to ask you to just forgive the noise in the background here as I'm in an airport lounge. And first of all, if I want to start speaking the language of JavaScript, I've got to tell my HTML page that, by the way, we should be interpreting this as script now. So it's the same way that I have these style tags up here. These style tags say to the computer, they go, oh, okay, HTML, you told me this is HTML, HTML, HTML. Oh, style tag, okay. This stuff is CSS, right? Okay, I hit the end style tag, back to HTML, right? So the computer is shifting gears here in how it's interpreting things based on some of these tags that it encounters. So script tags are no different. When the web page, oops, there we go. It's really the browser hits this page, it thinks, right? Computers don't think. Sorry. I know. AI seems really promising. It thinks, now I should interpret this. Or I should say now the language. Now the translator. Now I should use is JavaScript. Okay. End my comment, right? So that's an example of a comment. I actually comment in JavaScript similarly to the way that I do inside CSS, which is this / between the asterisks. So I say, okay. So what does JavaScript do? Again, it's interactivity. For us, it's going to be actually both content and interactivity. Let's start by just sort of demoing the interactivity part. I'm going to use something very basic. Hi there. Or let's do hello world, like the good little initial programmers that we are. Alert. So alert is a command. It's something that JavaScript as a language knows how to interpret already. Okay, so it's a known word to it. Sometimes we call these reserved words. And it's actually an example of what I like to think of as recipes, also known as functions. And what this is going to do is this is going to produce a little alert message. So how do I know this is working? Well, if I reload my page, I get, that's right, a pop-up. Now you all can create web pages with pop-ups. Don't beyond this point, but just to kind of demonstrate that this is working, we can make that happen if we want to. So one of the things that you will have read hopefully before you're watching these, is the JavaScript is a natural language piece, set of slides. And what I want to do right now is I just want to kind of create some variables, right? So again, variables are just boxes in the computer's memory, okay, that we label, right? And we label them so that we can refer to them later. So I like to think of this as the same way we introduce a character in a story. The first time we introduce them, we say, by the way, this is a variable. And in this case, I'm just going to give it a generic name right now, and a value. So this is the general structure of what we call a variable declaration. So I'm saying, look, this is the first time I'm talking about it. I'm introducing a number. I'm introducing this piece of information, or this character, if you want to think of it kind of Sesame Street style. It's called, this is the label for the box, and then the equals sign is, this is what goes in the box. Okay, what goes in the box is the value 19. Okay, so if you remember the parts of speech here, I have numbers. I also have, and yes, I'm doing this on purpose, I have strings. And I can make that, okay, right? You notice everything ends with a semicolon, okay? So the sentence ender, the statement ender, the sentence ender in JavaScript is a semicolon. You'll notice also that this var turns blue, okay? That's, again, an indication that the computer recognizes as a special word. So I'm going to say var, my num, my string. I can make a list, also known as an array, okay? That's going to be indicated by square brackets, and I can make this, I can put anything I want in this. I can make it, right? And I'm going to separate the items by commas, okay? So I think of this as akin to, like if I were to, give a list of 5 things at the end of a sentence in English, I would say, the rainbow is red, orange, green, blue, yellow, and violet, okay, or red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So everything is separated by a comma, except for the last item. There's no comma between the last item and that last square bracket, okay? So I'm going to say, well, let's just put these both in here, okay? Note, so this is just to illustrate that I don't need to have the same data types, okay? I can have a string and a number, right? We don't generally do that. But it is possible. Okay, I can also have an object, okay, and this is where it's going to work into our larger data storage later. And an object, right, is just something where it's denoted by curly braces, okay, and I can have what we call them key value pairs, but basically it's a label within the object. So if you think of the variable as a box, you can think of the object as being a series of little boxes inside it that each has their own label. Okay, so I can say, just say item 1. Okay, and so it's always going to be like item 1 is the label, and the value is something here. Again, they're always separated by commas, and I can say item 2 is going to be something else. Okay, I can also have something be item 3, and that can be a number again. Okay, I can even have lists as part of my objects, etc., etc. Okay, so this is just to show, and then lastly, of course, we have Boolean, just a special one, which can be either true or false, okay? What does all of this mean? Well, first of all, when you all do this, you're going to do this with content that is relevant to your research reports. So this is actually going to be content about, say, refugee populations. But I'm going to show you kind of how we get to interact with this on the visible side of the web page, and then how that relates to this goal of separating content from our HTML structure. So I will be back in just a moment.